Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to 2023. This is episode 64 of Tech Tactics Live, and I've got my guest here, Manny Albin, our technical director. And we thought, wouldn't it be great to kind of kick off the year and share with everyone all the national events in 2023? And then Manny added a twist to it and said, why don't we give them sort of the insider tips? So that's what we're going to do today. Before we get started, I want to make sure we thank Pirelli. Without their sponsorship, none of this would happen. Of course, each and every one of you, thank you for watching, and we'd love it if you'd give us a like, a subscribe, or maybe even comment, as I'll be monitoring the live chat all evening if you have questions for us. And of course, we're trying to get to that 100,000 subscriber on YouTube. That makes a big difference for us. Manny's been a PCA member for what, 34 years?
34 years.
And I've been a member for about 20 years. So collectively, we've been to a number of events, and we thought we'll go through all the national events and share with you our tips and insider, everything, so that you have a phenomenal experience when you come to a PCA national event. So let's just throw up the events that we're going to cover. We're going to cover what are the national PCA events, registration tips, how to get in before it sells out, how do you enjoy the event. Coming to a big event for the first time can be intimidating, but we're going to share with you information to make sure that you have a wonderful experience. We're going to go through things, events such as Rennsport, Porsche Parade, Werks Reunion, Treffen, PorschePlatz, Tech Tactics East and West, ÜnStock, or one of our newest events, and of course, those of you in the Mid-Atlantic area, we also have PCA's Open House. So, with that, Manny, you want to kick off the first one, which is probably one of the most exciting events that doesn't always come around.
And I think it's worth pointing out that the club as a whole, with our regions, hosts close to 4,000 events a year. So the national events are ones that are organized and run by most of the national office. So if you're wondering what the difference between a national event and one of our regular events, that's about it. It's a
national volunteers.
National volunteers.
Supported, and we have like national committee chairs, and then the staff here at HQ support them to make it all happen.
Yeah, but as the club, there's something for you to do every weekend of the year.
And I think we say this all the time, like without the volunteers at the region level, the national level, none of this would happen. So first off, thank you to all of our volunteers, but the more importantly, if you've never considered volunteering, volunteer at the regional level, make your way to the national level, because that makes the experience even sweeter.
Exactly.
So let's talk about Rennsport 7.
Yeah, this is the one we've all been waiting for. It's 5 years it'll be since the last Rennsport. So obviously it's not an annual event. It's an event that this is actually organized by Porsche Cars North America and Porsche AG being the company, the corporate in Germany. It is help run by PCA. We provide the majority of the volunteers. We take care of the PCA hospitality, all the corral parking. We have a club race group in there. So we're very involved, being that we're the largest Porsche club in North America. It is an event that I tell people, if you love Porsche, this is the event to attend. We don't know when it's going to come back after this time.
You don't. And for those of you that are teetering on the line of whether or not you should go, you should just go. I mean, really, yes. If you have the opportunity to go, it's never a guarantee that the next one's going to happen again. And what I always share with people is, things that you've read about, seen in video, drivers, and accomplishments that you've heard of in the past, the golden ages of racing, all of that kind of comes together in addition to all the modern cars and all the modern racing and the future of motorsports. That all comes together at Rennsport.
So it's 4 days long. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think we have the dates on the screen. It's centered around Porsche race cars. That's really what the event's about. That's what Rennsport means in German. So they celebrate their racing victories, all their successes, and the cars. And they celebrate not only the cars, but the personalities, the drivers and the engineers. And for me, that's really the best part, because the cars are always going to be there, but unfortunately, a lot of these people will not. So hearing from these drivers who drove in the 50s and 60s in Porsche glory days when they were first becoming a prototype manufacturer, it's just a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Add to the fact that this is a Laguna Seca, and if you've never been to Laguna Seca, it's right in Monterey, and it has Carmel. Now, my wife, who's probably watching the show, she is not a big racing fan, but she loves Carmel and she loves Monterey, and this is all she needs to hear is that they're having it in Laguna, and she wants to come. No questions asked.
You don't have to twist folks' arms to get to Monterey.
So even if you're not a car enthusiast or Porsche enthusiast, or your significant other doesn't want to spend 4 days at the track, there's so much to do around that area that doesn't necessarily revolve around cars.
And some of you might be familiar with Car Week, and when Car Week takes over Monterey, it's really cool that you see all of these amazing vehicles. When you come to four-way lights and you pull up to a restaurant, you see amazing cars. Well, just imagine that, but instead of cars, it's primarily Porsches. Porsches of all kinds, and everywhere you look, it's absolutely, you have to experience. But the reality is gonna kick in a little bit here, because now that we've convinced you to go to Rennsport, the reality is the corrals, and people want to bring their cars, and maybe you want to shed some light on that.
So the corrals sold out almost as soon as they came on sale a few months back, which is made for Porsche cars. We're going to park around close to 1,700 Porsches. So the bad news is they're sold out. The good news is they're on for sale in the secondary markets. And as we get closer to the event, and people who may have bought them almost a year early find out they can't attend, they will be putting them up for sale. The key, though, is the corral tickets are specific to the model. So you cannot show up with a corral for a 944 or a ticket in a 911 or vice versa. So whatever ticket you buy or someone gives you, make sure that your Porsche corresponds to that model corral. Otherwise, you'll be turned away, because the volunteers who are parking cars they know the difference between a 944, a 928, a Cayman, or a 911. These aren't non-Porsche people. These are all volunteers helping to park cars. If you didn't bring a Porsche and you brought a rental car, there's plenty of parking, and most people do that. Most people just fly into the event. Once you park your car, you can walk through the corrals and see all the cars and hang out with your friends, or you can go into the paddock and look at all the race cars. And once again, this is all Porsche. There's no other makes. So everywhere you look, you're going to see Porsches. It's like being at 4 days at Disney World or maybe Las Vegas for adults. You pace yourself. Look at the schedule. As soon as you get there, find the schedule and find out what certain events are being held, like certain races you may want to attend. If you want autographs, find out what time the autograph sessions are. Find out what time they have concerts, they have presentations. PCA has its own tent on what they call the PorschePlatz. Used to be called Cayman Island. And we have our own schedule of speakers that come to our tent, drivers and personalities, and we do presentations as well. So you want to make sure that you stop by the PCA tent and get the schedule of activities, or at least look on the board to see if there's any changes. There's really so much going on that before you know it, the day is going to be over. Last time we had a sponsor for coffee in the morning. I think it was Porsche Financial. Mm-hmm. They surprised us and showed up with coffee and pastries for everyone who was there, so everyone got treated to some gourmet coffee. So the key is to find out what's going on and set your schedule.
And I will confess, it's still a bucket list for me to bring a Porsche to Rennsport Reunion. I've been to several, I think 4 Rennsport Reunions, but I have not attended any of them with my own personal Porsche. Having said that, though, I still had an amazing time at every single one. And in some ways, I think I was able to enjoy it a little bit more because I just parked the rental car in some random lot, and then I didn't have to worry about my car. I just enjoyed the event itself. And then at the end of the day, climbed into the car and went back to the hotel. It was, I didn't feel like I missed out on anything.
I actually got to race at Rennsport 2 with my race car, and it was magical, mainly because I had not raced with spectators before. So that was very strange, looking at every corner at people looking at you, which I hadn't been used to. Pro drivers obviously would be used to that, or maybe vintage racers, but for me that was a new experience. But every other one I've been to, and I've been to every one except the first one, it's just so much to see, so much to do. The owners of the cars love to talk to fans. The drivers love to talk to fans. Believe it or not, Richard Atwood, who was one of the drivers who won the first Le Mans in 1970 for Porsche, he came to the tent and his wife whispered to me. She said, "I don't think anybody's going to remember who he is." And I chuckled. I said, I think they'll know. And by the end of the question and answer, they gave him a standing ovation, and she couldn't believe that something he had done in 1970, people still remembered. So it's magical things like that that make Rennsport memorable.
Now, talk about parade laps for people that have cars in the corral, right? They have an opportunity to do parade laps, what, 4 days of parade laps?
4 days, 120 cars, or 125 rather, for each session. You have to have a corral pass to be able to do parade laps because they want all the cars already inside of the track, and the only way to get your Porsche inside of the track is to have a corral pass. And of course, it has to be a Porsche. So you can't show up your rental car and say, well, I have a parade lap ticket. Being part of it's pretty cool because everywhere you look on the parade lap is Porsche, and even the spectators are watching because they've never seen so many Porsches on the track at one time. It's pretty cool. My secret is make friends with somebody who may have an extra seat in their car, maybe solo, and just ask if you can tag along and ride. I don't think I've run into anyone who said, no, I want to run solo. Most people are happy to share the joy and let people ride in their cars for the parade laps.
So I think Manny knows how much I love when it comes to shopping and swag. And you should prepare yourself if you're going to Rennsport that if you want swag, one,
bring a lot of money.
it's going to be expensive. And it will also run out. There isn't an endless supply of Rennsport Reunion swag. So bring money, shop early. And for those of you that are into posters, many of us are, I recommend bringing some sort of hard tube and not rely on the sellers to have tubes. And that way you can get whatever poster you want early, roll it up and have it protected as you walk around. Because the worst thing is you buy something, you buy a poster, and then you end up creasing it while you're going out through your day.
And if you can remember, and I love getting autographs on my toy cars, my models, but some people will carry the poster and the tube. Make sure you have a black Sharpie and a silver Sharpie. That'll cover both angles. And because you're going to run into a lot of famous drivers and personalities, and nothing worse than not having anything for them to sign or having a memory. This year also, or this Rennsport will be the first time I think that we have a PCA store selling Rennsport merchandise that's exclusive just for members. So if you're watching and you're a PCA member, you have the ability to buy from our store. We cannot sell it to non-members. It can only sell it to members. So you may have to bring a membership card or some proof that you're a PCA member. We may have to look you up, but you will have access to these exclusive apparel that you can't buy in a regular store.
Yeah, we'll definitely bring a lot, but we're not going to bring an endless supply. So if you want a PCA Rennsport, shirt, jacket, hat, come early and just be ready to shop. Here's a question that says before we move on to the next event from Peter Morrow. He says, has Rennsport Reunion ever been held on the East Coast?
Yes, actually the first one was held in Lime Rock, and then they moved 2 and 3 to Daytona. And actually before the first one in Lime Rock, what a lot of people like to call the first really Rennsport on the East Coast, they call it, was the 50-50 at Watkins Glen in 1998. It wasn't called Rennsport, but it sure was a nice practice run of what Rennsport would be like. So yep, they were on the East Coast for a while until they discovered Laguna Seca. And while I would love it for it to be on the East Coast, I can't argue the fact that it doesn't rain. Well, it's raining now in California.
You better knock on that wood and not have jinxed Rennsport.
That's right.
I'm knocking on the wood.
But for the most part, we've never had a rain issue, and that's a big problem that organizers worry about is rain. So.
Yeah, you invest so much into an event,
exactly.
And good weather makes a big difference.
Plus, once again, the surrounding of where Laguna is just hard to beat.
So, just to wrap up with regards to Rennsport, probably one of the toughest things about Rennsport, in addition to getting corral parking, is housing.
Yes, and by now everyone knows that Rennsport's happening. Everyone who has an Airbnb or a hotel, I think we usually stay sometimes an hour away.
Yeah.
To save money. So for us, it's not a big deal. It sounds like a lot for an hour, but it's very scenic drive. And we always find restaurants whatever town we're staying in. But if you're enthusiastic and you want to do this, you're going to spend all day at the track, and you just get used to making the drive. You can find reasonable hotels the further you go out.
Yeah, I mean, most people that are flying in for Rennsport will probably fly in to San Jose. So between San Jose and Monterey, depending on how far out you want to stay, the prices on hotels and such are probably going to be more reasonable. Folks are also looking at Airbnbs and maybe getting a big house and splitting it with a number of folks. That might help you out. But it's whatever your price point is, and if you're willing to spend more, you'll find something close. If you want to travel a little bit further and save a little bit money, you'll find that too.
I think the track has camping too. If you're
that's not an option for me. It might be an option for you.
Do I look like I would camp?
All right. So before we move on, I will say that you actually have just been offered a ride in the back seat of a 964. Peter Smith said you could hop a ride with him.
With Peter Smith, you know how much leg room I would not have. What's Peter Smith? 6'4"?
6'4", so you might have to sit on the passenger side behind
I might
someone.
be sitting on the whale tail of that car.
But that's so sweet of Peter to offer that to you.
Kind.
Peter Smith, our past technical chair, and you've seen him on Tech Tactics Live, Goldmeister Tech, all around good guy. We love you, Peter.
I thought he was still digging himself out of South. He lives in Tahoe, Lake Tahoe.
He bought himself a snowblower. All right, so let's move on to Porsche Parade, PCA's crown jewel event. So just to remind you, Rennsport 7 is a event that PCA National and its volunteers support, Porsche Cars North America and Porsche AG. But Porsche Parade is our crown jewel event. And you want to share how it all got started?
Yeah, in preparing the show, this was the big elephant in the room, or the big gorilla, because it's such a big event. I said we could do a show just on Parade very easily. In fact, when you get to Parade, they have a seminar, I think that's an hour long, called, I think, Parade 101, that basically is for newbies to kind of like prepare you and guide you for the week of Parade, which I strongly suggest if you come to Parade attending, because you'll learn a lot of tips relative to the event. So Parade started right from the beginning when Porsche started in 1955 and has been going ever since. It changes different parts of the country. We decided to run it nationally versus letting particular regions run it, because they got so big and required so much work that it's all hands on deck from the national office. And volunteer-wise, not including the staff, including the staff that volunteer, they have close to 600 people that volunteer. And that's part of the message is if you're coming to Parade, a lot of the fun is volunteering. And you may be saying, you mean I got to go on vacation, go to work? Trust me, it's not like work. It's hanging out with friends. A group of people decide, hey, we're going to work the goodie store, we're going to work the autocross, and it's just as much fun. In fact, when we used to do the rally, the time, speed, distance rally volunteering, because we had such a miserable time running it because we would get lost all the time, that I said, let's start volunteering. And we became a crew that worked their checkpoint for many years. And it was something we all looked forward to. And it certainly didn't feel like work.
And for those of you that aren't familiar with the size and scope of Porsche Parade, our most recent one was a record setter. We had over 1,100 families, close to 3,000 people descend upon Porsche Parade. And we happened to be in the Poconos region this past year, but Parade actually moves around all over the country. And next year, we're going to find ourselves in Palm Springs.
Yeah, Palm Springs in the summer, it's a great time to visit.
It'll be toasty, but we manage the heat.
We do. Believe it or not, I joke about the heat, but we had to have a parade one year in Savannah in the summertime. Anyone who lives in the Southeast will tell you that's crazy, and they told us we were crazy. But after we had that parade, people had so much fun. They still ask me, when are we going back to Savannah?
Was that the one where we were supposed to be in Vermont, but they
Correct.
couldn't get, something happened.
They couldn't get our autocross lot paved.
So we had to like make a switch to Savannah. But when we were actually in Savannah that particular year, while we were in Savannah, Vermont was actually hotter.
Yeah.
It was crazy weather.
But the thing was, the town came out and they just embraced us, like many resorts do and hotels where we're at, because we bring so much of an economic impact to that area that they are very happy to have the Porsche Club there. When we went back to Vermont, I remember the resort employees didn't want us to leave.
Yeah.
They were so happy to have Porsche people there. They said we were very generous with tips.
And that's, people always ask, like, how do you pick a location for Porsche Parade? You know, is it just a beautiful place? Well, there's lots of pieces that we need, such as an autocross site. We need beautiful roads to drive. We need a facility that can handle 1,100 families. And when you start putting all of the ingredients that are in the recipe for Porsche Parade, there aren't that many locations that can handle it. But when we choose to go to a place, we really do try to choose a location that we, just like we were talking about at Rennsport in Monterey, when you go during that time, you feel our presence there.
We take it over.
We take it over. So same thing with Porsche Parade. Wherever we go, when we're in the Pocono or when we were in French Lick, Indiana, you come to the stoplight or you go to the gas station, like everybody knows.
I feel
PCA's
sorry
there.
for the few families that are there that aren't part of the Porsche Parade.
Right.
Because everywhere they look is nothing but Porsche branded and PCA branded signs and cars. So anyway, so some of the tips, and this is registration is pretty intense because it's a week-long event, and we want to make sure that you understand what the events are and that you've basically been briefed on it, and if you didn't want to do it, that you tell us you didn't want to do it. There's nothing worse than when you get the registration and you say, oh, I didn't know about that.
And registration has been very much refined and looked at every year to try to make it more efficient. But it's such a complicated, you know, a system, and when you register, there's so many options. Like, you really have to study what you want to do and listen to other people that have gone through it before. And I remember when I started with PCA, and it used to be actually like a thick, like probably 50 sheets of paper that you would have to submit to register for Porsche Parade, and you'd have to fill it out and send it into HQ. Well, fast forward today, it's actually a two-stage process. We have a phase 1 and phase 2. We have, obviously, we're looking at venues that can hold, you know, close to 1,100 families. So capacity is much higher than other events that we have. You know, staying close to the hotel, knowing all the different competitive events that are available. Maybe you want to touch upon that.
So there's really like 4 main competitive events, and we call them 4 main because we have a rule book about the stick that tells you how to have fun and the rules of these events. But they're the most popular events of competitive-wise. It's the Concours, which is what everyone's familiar with. It's a car show. There's the time, speed, distance rally. A lot of people have done rallies. If you're great at math, this is an event for you. There's the tech quiz, which is at the end of the week. It's a quiz where people wake up at 8 in the morning to take a test to find out how smart or maybe how dumb they are when it comes to Porsche
Much
knowledge.
like golf, it's very humbling.
And which one am I missing? The 4th one. Rally, tech quiz, and autocross. I'm not forgetting my favorite event. Yeah, autocross. We do 2 days of autocross. And the cool thing about autocross, for those of you who run with your region or run with SCCA, they run the cars as a class. So if you're running like I run my 964, I'm running with all the 964s in that class at one time. So I don't have to wonder, did I win my class? How did someone else do in a 964? I am watching because we're all running at one time. So that's it's a pretty cool feature of autocross at Parade. That's only the tip of the iceberg, though.
Yeah,
there's the competitive events. There's
yeah.
also, and it's not listed as one of the 4 main, but I got to give a shout out because it's the fastest growing event, and that's the Gimmick Rally. The Gimmick Rally is the one where you can actually bring a non-Porsche to, and the whole family can participate. Although why you would want 5 people in a car doing a rally is beyond me, but hey, some people
we make everything into a competition
for punishment because you have 5 people giving you directions and 5 people pointing out clues. It's not as intense at the time, speed, distance. It's a lot of times it's either a scavenger hunt or you're looking for clues, but it's a lot of fun. And like I said, it's one of the fastest growing events we have at Parade.
And the Parade committee takes into account you don't have to be intimidated by these events because there are people that have never autocrossed that will be autocrossing. There are people that have never rallied, never done the TSD. They have all levels that you can participate, and at the end of the day, don't focus on whether or not you're going to get a trophy. Just focus on the fact that you're going to have a lot of fun. And even if you don't want to do any of the 4 competitive events that Manny mentioned, we have socials, we have cooking demonstrations, we have beer, wine tasting, we have, the list goes on and on.
And surprisingly, the beer tasting outsells the 5K run, I think 7-1.
I wonder why. And the one thing that probably the most popular out of everything that we do at Porsche Parade and also at some of our other events is the tours.
Yes.
It's all about tours. You go to a city area, and the local region, they know all the beautiful roads. They know all the cool places to take you to. And every day you can wake up and go on a new adventure. If you don't want to do any of those, competitive events, you can just get into the cars and go touring. And that's the most popular thing.
And an insider tip, find out where they're going to launch the tours from. This past year at Pocono, we had it in the parking lot right in front of the hotel on the side. And I think Pirelli sponsored a coffee station.
Yep, absolutely.
It was great coffee. And what I would do each morning, since I was working for PCA, I would still wake up early and I'd come out and hang out with all the members talking about their cars, because they were there about an hour before the tour left. Get my free cup of coffee and the Danish they had there, and just have breakfast and hang out with the people and watch as they left for their tours. And they staggered them, so this went on for like 2 hours. In the morning. It's a great way to start off the tours. The tour usually include lunch, and they bring you back in time for either the dinner at night, or if it's a free night, you can still go out with your friends and have dinner. But there is really so much to do for Parade.
And we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg, because we've got some other events to go through.
So the insider tips is, if you're interested in coming in Parade this year or any year, is like Vu said, there's 2 phases. First phase is just for housing. As soon as you register, you're going to get a code for your housing. Immediately go, and I would recommend going to the hotel site ahead of time to see what kind of rooms they have, because that's the point where you have to select what room you have. So what you don't want to do is get your code and say, well, I may have to wait till my wife or husband comes home to ask them what they want to get, because chances are, if you're looking for a suite, that suite may be sold out by the time someone else comes to help you make the decision. So make those decisions ahead of time. Know exactly what you want and know what your second and third choice are. So that's sold out, you still know what to pick. Fortunately, like Vu said, phase 1 is just the registration. Phase 2 is where it becomes a lot more difficult, because that's where all the events come into play. So you want to go to that website and look around. They have a schedule. They'll have the schedule already up, so you know what they're doing each day, and decide what you would like to do. Mark it down, so when you go to register, you're prepared and you can just bang right through it. And then you're answering questions as far as what size t-shirt you wear and what would you like for the meal. But deciding whether or not you want to do the event, you've already decided that.
And a key tip from me to you is, don't try to do everything, and then don't be upset that you can't do everything, because trust, when you get there, even if you did half of what you were planning, you can still pivot while you're at the event, and you'll find friends that will want to go for a drive, or you want to go into the tech seminar, or you just want to hang out in the exhibitor area, where we have 30 different companies at least to talk about the latest products that they make. We'll have Porsches there, we will have Porsche design, we'll have people that make parts, we'll have insurance companies. So there's plenty to do. So don't fret that you weren't able to sign up for everything.
And if you get sold out of a tour that you wanted to attend, don't worry, because in hospitality, there's a big bulletin board, or several bulletin boards, but one of them is just for banquet tickets and tour tickets and event tickets. So if you couldn't get into ABC Tour, odds are someone is selling the tickets they bought because they can't make it, and you can exchange it or pay for it right there within the hotel. So don't panic if you didn't get into certain events. You'll be able to probably find someone who's selling a ticket to that event.
So to wrap up with Porsche Parade, I hope you'll be able to join us in Palm Springs, but if it's too far for you, don't worry. At some point in time, Porsche Parade will rotate and be close to you, at least within a 10-hour drive.
I think in 2024 we're going to Birmingham, Alabama, right? which is home to the Porsche driving experience at Barber Motorsports Park. So for those of you who are more East Coast or it's not really Midwest, but
Still driving.
it's still closer than for us than Palm Springs,
Right.
Birmingham. Put it on your calendar.
There you go. All right, so let's go to one of my favorite events, and this happens at Amelia Island in early March, as well as during Car Week. That is Werks Reunion.
Yeah, we're already starting to plan here at the office, Amelia Island, because we know it's going to be here before we know it.
Well, Judge Cars is already sold out.
Hopefully, the car behind us will be done, and we can debut our
A little pressure
our
on Manny, get
little
this car
project car.
We've got to do what? Wheels, interior.
I need the guys from those shows to get it done in an hour. What takes 2 months.
We need to call Chris Jacobs. Get some of his crew.
Yeah, Chris Jacobs, his overhauling crew in here to finish our car. So Werks Reunion is usually held with another big event. So we have the what's called the Amelia, used to be known as the Amelia Island Concours, on the Sunday, where we're on the Friday. And in Monterey, of course, is Monterey Car Week. So you have Pebble Beach on the Sunday, you have Monterey Racing on Saturday, and of course we're on that Friday again out in California. It has become such a popular event, and kudos to the Provasis.
Yep.
Tom and Sandy, they've chaired every one since we started, and they don't seem to be tired or burnt out. They lead an incredible crew of volunteers who get there early on Thursday to help us start setting up, and they're all day on Friday. We get close to 800 Porsches.
At least.
Between the corral and what we call the judge. We don't like to call it Concours because it's really not Concours to the level of Parade.
It's a different type of judging.
It's a different type of judging, yeah. So what I tell people, insider tips, because this show is based on when people come to us and say they're going to a certain event, we always say, well, here's some hints and some suggestions. Is if you're going to be there all day, if you're planning just to hang out all day, think about entering the judge category. You may be saying, well, I just have this type of car, that kind of car. It's really not Concours ready. Well, once again, it's not a Concours. If you're proud of the car, you've had a good story with it, and you want to show it off, enter the judge. I've done it. I mean, my 964 has 165,000 miles. It is not a beauty queen by any stretch of the imagination, but I got a great story to tell about it, and I paid a little bit more, got a great parking spot on the main field. You got to stay there all day. You can't come and go on the judge field. But it's a great place to just hang out, and people come up to you and start talking, and it's to me, that's part of the fun of the event. It's very low pressure. You're not cleaning the car to the last second.
And it's a very casual environment. We have music playing. We have usually live music. We have food trucks. We have probably over 40 vendors lining the fairways, and people are just having a great time. And I think when we first started this, people weren't sure, like, is this a half day or is it a couple hours? But I can tell you the majority of people that come to Werks Reunion now just come, park the car, set up camp, and just plan to stay with
food trucks.
Everything you need is there.
I've seen people bring picnics and lay out like a on the lawn, and
it's like they're
cool
tailgating.
Yeah, that's no problem. Unlike tailgating at a football game, I don't think you're allowed to bring your grill and your a fire pit. But by all means, if you have a picnic lunch or something, some chairs and table, you want to sit down, that's perfectly fine. Or like I said, there's plenty of food trucks to choose from. In fact, one year, I think it was Monterey, the band was so good that we extended them another hour.
Exactly.
People didn't want to leave. They just sat there with their chairs, dancing and listening to the band. So that's how relaxed the event is. And the best part is it's free to attend. So if you bring your car in, it's $40 to park your car. But if you squeeze 10 people in a Suburban or a minivan, same price.
And Werks Reunion was really built to be sort of a marketing effort. So if you have friends or family that want to have that Porsche experience and be around Porsches, that's what Werks Reunion, because it's not a full commitment of like a week like Porsche Parade is. It's a one-day event, and they can see hundreds of Porsches. They can feel the buzz and feel all the enthusiasm people have around the brand in one day. And it's free. I mean, you just pay for parking, but anybody can come and hang out with us.
Yeah, so somebody asked what's the featured car this year. It's the 911.
Yes.
It's because it's 60 years in a 911 that Porsche is celebrating. The 911 Porsche used it the year they debuted, and the 911 debuted 1963 at the Frankfurt Auto Show. So.
Yep. All right, so tips. If you were considering to be in the judged group, you had to do it early because it did sell out. Corral doesn't sell as quickly, but you definitely don't want to take your time with that because it will eventually sell out. So if you plan to bring a car, you want to be parked with other Porsches, it's either judged or it's going to be in the Corral. And if you miss both of those, then we have general parking.
I think Corral, they park by model too. Or
Yes.
try to.
Yep, they try to. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's a C. I mean, it's just imagine a par 3. I think it's a par 3, full of from the box where you drive to the hole. It's just all Porsches.
If you think you have a rare color, odds are you may find out how rare it is if somebody parks right next to you the same color. Because parking by model is pretty cool. People like that. And
meeting people that have the same car as you, just to talk about maybe their mods or how they've experienced it. If you're a new owner, it's a great way to meet people. All right, so let's move on to the one that recently sold out, and it's a little tender in terms of a discussion. Treffen North America, and we'll talk a little bit about Treffen International as well. This is a hugely popular program. It's also very limited in numbers of spaces available, and I know some of you have already mentioned it here in the live chat. But let's explain to folks that don't know what Treffen North America is, and then we'll talk about why it is so tough to get into.
So I got to give kudos to David and Ginny O'Neill, who years back had the vision to take what we were calling Escape at the time to another level. Treffen, I always tell people, is a higher end PCA event. They usually use 4 or 5 star resorts. They get competitive pricing, but it's a much nicer hotel because they want people to enjoy the weekend, and it may mean not being in your Porsche all the time, but enjoying the amenities of a very nice resort. It's not a Hampton Inn. Not that Hampton Inns aren't bad. I love them, but it's something that you can destination, if you will.
Yep.
It's and it's nothing but essentially tours. Tours that when they finish, they bring you back to it comes back to the hotel, and you have enough time to get ready and join everyone for a group dinner in the evening. It's a non-competitive event.
Yep.
So no worries about having a rule book or winning trophies. Is simply driving your Porsche and enjoying company, and it's become hugely popular.
It really is. The destinations that they pick are usually bucket list areas, and because we're going there with a couple of hundred folks, we get better than normal pricing. But as Manny said, it's an event where there's no competition. You're there to tour. You're there to relax. You're there to eat amazing food, because we definitely make sure that the chefs are on point. I remember one Treffen had I think it was in Vermont, where they brought out all sorts of lobsters, and I mean, people were just amazed at the food, and that's the experience. That's what you want. Now, the takeaway for Treffen and why it's a little bit difficult in terms of the number of availability also has to do with timing. So it's not in the summer when everybody can go. It's actually typically in the spring and in the fall. So you find yourselves, it's really for couples, not really for families. I mean, maybe if you had a really young kid in school, it didn't matter, but it's really for couples to enjoy a luxurious 4-day event. So with that, you're taking a 4-day event with guided driving tours to a beautiful facility, but these facilities aren't that big. Once you get to big facilities, they're really not that intimate and not that special. So we're limited on capacity from there. And then you add in how popular it is and the experience that people have had in the past. It's just, we want to make sure we preserve what we have, and if we made it too big, then it would kind of grow into a Porsche Parade, and that's not what we want. We want this to be distinctive, and that's why it's so hard to get into. Maybe you share with some folks some of the how do you get in tips.
So we knew Atlanta or Georgia was going to be very popular because Peach State region's one of our larger regions. The selection of tours, I wanted to go. I didn't get in. It was very desirable. So what I was telling people when they were registering for the first time was go and study the website. Know what tours you want to choose. Have a number two, number three choice. Because what's happening is everyone's trying to get on at once, and they're all scattering, trying to pick their tours and check out so they can get in. And a lot of times when you go to check out, it says, "I'm sorry, but this tour is sold out. Please select another or say nothing." So you go back and you're selecting, then more tours are selling out. So if you know ahead of time what you're going to tour, what you're going to choose, you can pick out and check out really quickly. I know it sounds stressful, but we're a victim of our own success, I guess, when it comes to registration, because with tours, there's only so many cars you can take on a tour, where then suddenly, if you let everyone in, you got a tour of 100 cars or 150 cars, and it's no longer a tour, it's a traffic jam. So it's...
Yeah, and we're not as grand, but I know like my wife has been trying to get tickets to various tennis tournaments, and she's trying to get on a lottery, or she's trying to do all this stuff to try to get, it's just so popular. There's only so many seats, and we can't take so many people in, and then to make to keep the event as special as is, we have to disappoint some people. So I definitely apologize to those that we have disappointed.
I know Peter said, why don't you have more of them?
Oh, yeah.
And we would love to, but our club is majority volunteers, and there's only so much you can really ask from volunteers. So two will like maximize us. And of course, our national office staff isn't as large as it may seem. So it gets pretty hectic here once the driving season starts, as we're preparing for. As soon as we get from one event, it feels like we're packing and unpacking and packing again to leave for another event.
Yeah, just think about, there's only 12 months, right? So, think about the number of events that we're sharing with you tonight and what we have to do to prepare before it, be there during it, send everything back home, and then reset for the next one. So we also have a capacity issue of how many events we can do a year. The other one I wanted to talk about is Treffen International, who we've partnered with Fast Lane Travel, and that is also a bucket list event. If you've never done a Treffen in Europe with our group, they take you, and that is a white glove 5-star experience where you're flying into Germany, you're doing the factory tours, you're going to castles, you're having dinner at very unique locations, you have Porsche cars, they handle everything from, they tell you where to get gas, they tell you where to go to the rest stop, they handle all your food and all your accommodations. So if you're interested in something like that, just go to our website and look at Treffen International, Fast Lane Travel. If you have any questions, you can drop us a line and we'll point you in the right direction there.
Peter Sondak, who runs it, I think he's been doing it since the early 80s.
Yes.
He has all the connections
Peter
to the factory.
He does.
You get to drive Porsches the whole trip. He has a 150-mile-an-hour club. I went to 200-mile-an-hour club because 150 isn't that fast anymore on the Autobahn.
That's
at least
still
in a
pretty.
Porsche.
How many of you have driven 150? Not many, so I think that's still plenty fast.
It's very cool. It's like Boo said, it's definitely a bucket list where everything is taken care of. A little bit more expensive than our Treffen North America.
It is, and it's definitely a bucket list. All right, so let's move on because we've got a lot to share and it's not much time left. Let's talk about PorschePlatz, all the racetrack events.
So this is going to be really special with the 963 getting ready to debut at the Rolex 24. So I think at almost all the IMSA races, almost all of them, is a PorschePlatz. And PorschePlatz is run by Porsche, but once again, much like Rennsport, we help administer it. We provide the volunteers. It's a hospitality tent where all you need to show is your PCA membership card or a Porsche key. Mm-hmm. Either one will get you into this tent. And what's in the tent? Well, it's a great place to come hang out. They have closed circuit television. Sometimes they have some refreshments. It depends on the venue. They have guests that come, and this is where I think it's really cool because they'll bring the factory teams in there. They'll bring the factory teams during the race to update the viewers as to what's going on. Prior to the race, they have the drivers in, and the question and answer, they have engineers in. So it's a very special place that's, once again, open just to PCA members and Porsche owners. One of the insider tips, as soon as the corral for the parking lot of the PorschePlatz opens, the tickets, buy them.
Yep.
Because that's primo parking. It's only Porsche is allowed. You have to have a Porsche to be able to park in this area. But it's a very cool place to hang out. Depending on, I know at Road Atlanta, they get probably, I think, over 150 Porsches squeezed
Primo
into there.
parking space.
Yes, and it's right near the bridge. Great viewing area. They actually build a big platform. But they do it at most of the IMSA races. Check our website. We have the whole schedule for PorschePlatz.
But I think more importantly is make sure that you're subscribed to eBreak
Yes.
News, which is what we send out every Tuesday evening. And when there's events like that coming up, it'll definitely be in eBreak News. So it's sort of pushed to you. Just scan that and make sure you look out for
Or
it.
if you listen to our podcast, Porsche Club Insider, which is a weekly podcast, we always have a section where we talk about upcoming events, and we tell people ahead of time when we know things are going to go on sale. To be prepared for it. If you've never been to a race and you want to attend and see the 963s running, this is a perfect place to watch it from or come hang out because hopefully maybe we'll have Roger Penske stop by.
That'd be cool.
One year we had Patrick Dempsey come to COTA, and he loved when he came to COTA because he was afraid they were going to ask him questions about Hollywood. Instead, everyone asked him questions about the track and driving because he was racing.
And
he was just thrilled.
Wasn't it there that you found out you guys were the same age?
Yeah, actually, I found out he is older than me
No way.
by a couple months.
Oh, okay, by a couple months.
I don't know what happened to his hair. It stayed, mine didn't.
I think that's what you opened up the
Yes, I did.
the introductions with. All right, let's move on to an area near and dear to your heart, Tech Tactics.
Yeah, so it's coming back. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to cancel it. These are held at Porsche training facilities, and the training facilities is where they train the dealership technicians on how to work on all the new Porsches that come out. And so where normally during the week they're training people how to work on their cars, they open the doors up once on the East Coast, once on the West Coast for 2 days, a Saturday and a Sunday. Each day is the same thing, so you can choose Saturday or Sunday. It's limited to 125 people, so it sells out fairly fast. But it's a day of nothing but tech sessions from Porsche. And the most popular ones are about the newer cars.
Yep.
Because we always get people from Porsche Cars North America or Porsche AG to talk about these cars. Hopefully we'll have the new RSR and the Porsche Dakar at the one in Easton, which is held in February, and then normally the one on the West Coast is held in November, right around the LA Auto Show time period. So hopefully we get something from new that they're debuting at the LA Auto Show. But it's a great social event. You get to hang out with PCA members. At least on the East Coast, February, there's not much going on in the Mid-Atlantic area. So it's a great break from being inside and not being able to drive your car. The registration opens January 18th for the East Coast. And just look online because it'll have your choice of what color group, if you will, you want to come attend. We have multiple classrooms, so you kind of like college. You pick your courses, which you'll be attending, and then you go room to room, and it has a schedule listening to these presentations. You can switch rooms. We don't check your ID tag to see what you signed up for. But once again, it's a great social event. They do the warehouse tours. In these places, at least on the East Coast, they have the parts warehouse. It's this huge warehouse where all the parts are shipped out from. So at lunchtime, they do a tour and they explain how they stock the parts, how they have them distributed in the warehouse, and then they usually have someone selling parts, one of the dealers, hopefully at a discount. And then when you leave, you get a nice goodie bag or giveaway. It's a very popular event. For those of you that can't make it to the East or West Coast, we're actually going to be doing a Tech Tactics Live. Tech Tactics Live, of course, you're watching it tonight. We're going to be doing it a Saturday version from Easton. We haven't picked the topic yet, but you'll see announced on eBreak.
And as Manny said, probably the more popular topics is the newer cars, but we do mix it up. We have, we have folks like John Patterick come through, talk about restoration. We have people that come in and actually show us some of their services and such. And even when you're switching between classes or you're sitting at lunch, there's so many people to talk to. I mean, that in itself is a lot of fun.
Yep.
All right, so let's move on to ÜnStock, the youngest event in PCA's portfolio.
I guess you got to give a shout out to your wife for naming this.
Yes, thank you, dear. So this came out of our participation at SEMA, the Specialty Equipment Manufacturers meeting in Las Vegas at the beginning of November, where everything about aftermarket cars come together. And Ilko Nechev, our advertising director, and I noticed that there's a lot of modified Porsches that go to SEMA, but there's not really a place for them to be, not placed under a spotlight and celebrated. So we came up with this idea of having a similar to Werks Reunion in the sense where it's just a one-day event, but the spotlight would be on modified Porsches, not stock. Therefore, we came up with ÜnStock with the umlaut, and not super
not a German word.
Not a German word. We totally made it up. We admit to it, but it's stuck.
It sounds good.
And we have about 125 modified cars. We moved the event to different locations. Right now, we're focused really in Southern California. There are talks of moving or maybe having additional events elsewhere in the United States, and we're working on that. But it's a lot of fun. It's very hip, or with, we have loud music, we have food trucks, we have, graffiti artists, and it's a completely new vibe for us, and it's gone over very well. We were at Gunther Werks for the very first event, and we were at West Coast Customs for our second event. And most people, the first event didn't understand, and when they came to Gunther Werks, they saw it, and when they came back to West Coast Customs this year, you really saw how people embraced it, and that was really cool.
It was actually, I got to correct you because I got corrected.
What's that?
Specialty equipment, not manufacturer, market.
Oh, market.
Sure
oh, yeah,
market.
yeah. You're right.
So
I always say SEMA. So
I'll save somebody an email from correcting us. Because the last time I said what you said,
yeah,
and I got corrected. So this event, what was really cool at SEMA was when we approached some of these builders. This time we didn't have to explain what ÜnStock was. They were very familiar and had already planned to come out and hopefully bring their car out. So that was pretty cool as a club member to see that they knew exactly what the event was. It is the only event where we have to vet the cars, if you will, where even like Werks Reunion, you just sign up and if there's space you're in. Here, we want to make sure that the car is truly modified and modified visually where spectators can come and enjoy modified cars. So one of the tips I tell people is write down all your modifications and get a good picture or pictures of your car. Because the only thing we have to go by is what you give us on the website. And a lot of times people write 2 modifications and there's something we can't see. When you look at the picture of the car, you're like, wow, this is a pretty cool car. You left a lot of modifications out. So take the time and write your description before you submit it or enter your car. Because the event's gotten more and more popular, we have more and more cars that we have to unfortunately turn down that can't get into the event. So enter your car and write down stuff you're proud of that you modified.
But let's say if you don't have a modified Porsche, that's okay. It's open to spectators, free to just come and enjoy. So you can. Someone said at ÜnStock this year, around the facility, it was like a commercial sort of district area, and people said, man, even parking out and seeing all the cars as we walk towards the event, there were so many amazing cars just parked along the curb. So it's a sight, and if you have the time, we'd love to see you at ÜnStock. It's really cool.
And unlike Werks Reunion, it's not an all-day event.
Nope. So
it's a short window, 3 hours maybe?
4 hours.
4 hours, something like that.
Like 10 to 2.
Yeah, so it's, it's opposite of Werks Reunion. It's, I don't want to say pop-up event, but that's what it feels like sometimes.
All right, and the last one we want to share is right here in Columbia, Maryland.
Yeah, so Boo started this back when we were in Springfield, Virginia. The open house for the longest time, believe it or not. Um, uh, the national office didn't want people coming by.
There
because-
wasn't really anything to show.
No, we weren't where we are now, and it was a very crammed office and wasn't conducive to visitors. So we didn't even publicize where we were. But times have changed. Boo came on in 06 or 06 or 05. You came on.
November 2005.
2005 as executive director, and really changed everything up. And one of the things he wanted to do was show off the national office and show people how the national office operates. So when we moved into Columbia, we were really proud, and Boo was really responsible for building out this office. And so Boo is the tour master. That's one of the highlights I tell people when they come to do the open house. Make sure when the tickets become available, now tickets are available. They're free to take the tour, but we have to limit how many people can go on a tour because our offices aren't IBM or Apple. It's still
We try
small.
to take about 25 to 30 people through, and it's pretty tight. But for those, we do, I think, 3 rounds. So, we try to get close to 100 people through. And I'm very proud of the national office. I'm very proud of, I try to share sort of our accomplishments that we achieve throughout the year on behalf of PCA and for our members. So if you get a chance, if you're around Columbia, look again. Make sure you check your e-brake news, but the first or second weekend typically in September is when the open house is, and again, it's free just to come. We just want to know that you're coming so that we can have enough barbecue ready for you. And we have a big tent, we have lots of green space where you can put down a picnic blanket, hang out, throw some, what's that game, sheep with a beanbag? Cornhole and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. Any other tips for open house?
Just register because once again, like with free lunch, we've had Mission Barbecue forever, and
here's my tip for you: is stay to the end. Why?
To help us clean up.
Well, the raffles.
Yes,
I've reserved some amazing raffles for the open house.
We're talking a set of tires.
Set of tires.
We gave
away a
cruise.
We gave away a cruise last year. We have swag from the various events that we brought back.
People who've come before know that when we have a lot of apparel that we don't want to stock anymore, so you can get it very much discounted. So a lot of people, unfortunately or fortunately, I guess, wait to this event to buy their apparel.
I've seen people walk out with 2 shopping.
My wife.
You're
I'm walking around with like 6 shopping bags. So I'm like, I work there, right?
All right, so we're at the top of the hour. A couple of things I just wanted to share with you. Mark on your calendar. One of our favorite guests, Nathan Mers, will be back with us, Tech Tactics Live, on the next episode, February 1st. We'll be talking about the 2023 market, and he'll give us an update on his thoughts on what do we have ahead of us. We talked about Werks Reunion, Amelia, March 3rd. We hope we see you there. Tech Tactics East. Registration opens January 18th. Sign up for February 18th or the 19th. I
was going to say, before I forget, because I saw one of these questions there, somebody asked what other events are there. Go to our PCA.org website and just look under events, because regions, most of them list all their events on that website, and you do not have to be a member of that particular region to go to their event. If you check it, I think every region allows all the region members to attend. So take a look at the upcoming events. It may not be a national event, but you may have tours, concours, all the stuff we talked about, on a little bit smaller scale that region or region next to you is doing.
There you go. We just recently released podcast 44, so you haven't checked out Porsche Club Insider, do that. I did see someone here talk about the cruise. Although I don't have details, we're going to work on it. And if you want to find out whether or not the cruise is happening, again, e-brake or the website is where you'll find more information on that.
In podcast 43, we talk about, I think it's 43, we talk about the cruise and what
it was like.
What you did. 44 that you mentioned, that's with our new president, Aaron Abruzzino.
Check that out.
Get to know Aaron and what he's done. His dad actually taught him driver's ed on the track.
He did.
Which I find mind-boggling. Because I don't see my dad teaching me how to drive.
All right, everyone. Well, this is Tech Tactics Live, episode 64. Thank you for joining us. Again, if you enjoyed the episode, give us a like. More importantly, give us that big subscribe. Commit to the channel. We would certainly appreciate that. Until next time, we'll see you later.